Yeah.
Before these last two games, kind of what was your assessment, and do you think that it's, it improved during the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think probably that was self-inflicted, really, from myself. Just probably putting a little too much pressure on them, and as well as myself, trying to always have the perfect call instead of letting them play a little more freely. And so I take blame for that. But I also think we improved our practice habits, just doing the little things, better in practice, emphasizing takeaways, running to the ball. Great knee bend when we're in tag tempo, really doing a good job thudding the ball carrier in our show team periods. And I think that's really probably what separated us or improved our play the last couple weeks is probably our practice habits more than anything.
Is there anything you point to, especially the last few weeks as the season's going on, is the improvement in causing takeaways? Anything click there?
Again, emphasizing it more in practice, really putting a consequence on the defense if we didn't reach a certain number of takeaways throughout practice, like a half gas or whatever at the end of practice. Nothing too major, but just constantly putting it on their mind. I think you get what you demand, and I think just demanding those things and emphasizing those things and do a better job during practice, getting those things accomplished probably, results in what's happened the last couple Saturdays.
There's a lot of rotation just because of injuries. How have you evaluated the linebacker room as they've gone through this first stretch?
I think they've come on the last couple weeks. Like you said, it's kind of Hopper's obviously been steady. He's played really really well. But when I say he's been steady, he's been the one constant in the lineup. Chad was banged up through fall camp. He's a little banged up now. So it's kind of been a mix and match accordingly. Tristan Newsome, he played his best game that he's played as a Missouri Tiger last week, so he's continuing to develop. And then I thought Chuck played really well. So it has kind of been a mix and match. But that's one thing that we talk about defensively, kind of the last couple weeks, what we've done better. We've also played a lot more guys. And again, that falls on me. But I think we have an extremely unselfish group of young men in this room. But I also think when they're playing less, they're playing better. We continue to harp on it's the quality of tape. Don't worry about production, and it's hard when you're 18 to 22 and, you look at, he's got more tackles than me or he's got more sacks. And this group has been extremely unselfish when it's come to that. And, I think I would guess we've played more guys the last 2 weeks than we had played in any other ball game. And I think that's really helped guys perform at a higher level.
Like, is that just a case of more people being ready by week 8, or is that kind of a sign of things to come as well?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think some guys, it takes longer to develop. Tristan's a great example of that where he probably wasn't ready. We didn't want to just throw him in the fire and hurt his confidence either. So I think he's really come on, and you see that in practice. And we talk about you get what you earn. And those guys that have gotten reps, we're not just putting them out there because, hey, you're on the sideline, let's go get reps. They've earned them. And, some guys it takes a little bit longer. Some guys we probably could have thrown out there earlier. You as a coach, sometimes it's just the flow of the game. But I think we've made an emphasis as a staff making sure we get a bunch of guys in, especially early in the game, and I think it's paid dividends.
How much does it help going into these last 4 weeks for maybe guys that were playing 50 snaps to play 35?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge from their body holding up, but also huge for the development of some of these guys that have played 20, 25. I think Philip Roche, played 26 snaps, by far the most he's played all year. And it takes snaps off of other guys as well. But, yeah, I think it's huge from not a conditioning standpoint, just a physicality standpoint, especially in this league. It's a physical league. So being able to take off those 20 reps, per game is going to be big, especially down this home stretch.
What guys have kind of impressed you from the standpoint of you didn't know maybe how fast they'll pick something up, whether that be a freshman or someone like D-Rob playing a new position?
I think D-Rob is extremely – he keeps getting better and better every week. Excuse me. He's extremely impressive. Just the way, he takes hard coaching. You don't have to coach him that way, but he can take it, and his growth throughout these last 6 weeks has been. I said in the spring I could see him getting better and better. He continues to get better and better. He is very physical at the point of attack, much more so, in my opinion, than he's ever been. But Philip Roche, Marvin Burks, those are two young guys that have played a lot of reps for us. Sidney Williams has really come on as of late by giving us more depth on the back end. But you kind of have a clue. Marvin we had in the spring. Sidney we had in the spring, even though he was a little banged up. And then Philip, just the way he studies the game, he's constantly texting me questions, watching film. So you have an idea of who's going to be able to pick it up quickly, either throughout the recruiting process or the first couple weeks that they're on campus.
Alongside D-Rob, how would you analyze the rest of the defensive position of the
I've been really, really. I don't want to say surprised, but I'll use the word pleasantly surprised only because that was the one position we didn't have a returning starter at. And I think Coach Peoples has done a phenomenal job with them as a unit. When you look at D-Rob, you look at Johnny, the production he has had, really the production across that room. When you look at Joe Moore, Austin Firestone with a huge sack in the Vanderbilt game, Niles Gaddy. That's three guys that were not with us, until fall camp. So my hat's off to him. My hat's off to that group. It's a very unselfish group that has bonded really, really quickly. So it's been fun to see.
As the defense has come along, just kind of how have you seen the leadership in that group kind of step up and contribute to practice?
We have so many leaders. It's hard to pinpoint necessarily one. I think that's kind of been the cool thing about this unit is they kind of all feed off of each other, and a lot of them being around each other for the second year. They kind of know what to expect from one another. But I think we've had strong leadership throughout. Again, I think probably it was more my fault than anything, just putting this undue pressure on the unit. I had to look at myself in the mirror. Am I being the best coach I could possibly be? And the answer was really no. There was times where I'd get so mad and I'd just start yelling and I wouldn't be coaching, And so, again, you got to look at yourself in the mirror first. And I think they've done a great job from a leadership standpoint all season long.
Like when you say undue pressure, what do you mean?
Just saying, what our goals were out loud. And I don't regret necessarily saying that, but just when I did that, I think it put pressure on these guys that they had to be perfect. And we got away from our philosophy of just run and hit. The rest will take care of itself, and I think that's what we've gotten back to the last couple of weeks.
Flip side, last year a lot of times you did have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You guys obviously you get a lot more help from the offense. Have you seen that in your guys kind of not relaxing, but make it a little easier to go out there and play?
Yeah, I think so. I think really as a team, I think that's been the cool thing about this entire team this year is there is never a sense of belief that we're ever going to lose a game. You know what I mean? Like the defense on the sideline, where maybe last year they'd kind of get frustrated a little bit. You don't hear any of that because they have the most confidence in the world in our offense getting it done, and I would say it's probably vice versa from the other side of the ball. So, I think them knowing that they don't have to go be perfect the last couple of weeks has probably helped them as well.
You mentioned players kind of letting them play. What does it look like to manufacture when they give them too much?
Probably not bringing so much into a game plan, and it was kind of, and I told myself before the season, again, with a veteran group, you got to be careful about putting too much on their plate. And there were some games that I probably did that. And so really just scaling back the game plan and not having as many calls so they're not thinking as much.
Coach, how has having this offense be so explosive kind of helped the defense preparing in practice knowing you're going against one of the better offenses in the country?
Yeah, I think, when you look at, especially at the receiver position with the receivers that we have, I think every day we're iron sharpens iron. So I think it gives our DBs a confidence that whoever they're going against, they're seeing the best in the country every single day. And especially up front as well. I think our offensive line has really come together and is a strong point of our team. So, and I would say that probably about our defensive line the last couple of years. So I think those two units have gotten better competing against each other every single day.
Coach, speaking of those DBs, just what have you seen from Chris Abrams during this kind of incredible stretch?
Just consistency. He's a guy that, early on in the season, the first couple games, I didn't think he played his best football, and kind of talked to him. Really, in my opinion, it wasn't that he was pressing too much. I think his technique kind of led him astray a little bit, and really since he's honed in on that, he's played extremely well. But he's extremely consistent, both physically on the field, but emotionally. He never gets too high, never gets too low. Really lets the game to come to him. Plays within the scheme, and when the opportunities present itself, he's made the play. So, and it's kind of been kind of the same thing with D-Rob. It's don't try to press. Just do your job, do it at a high level, and plays will be made. And those two guys, I can definitely say that about.
Okay, you came back with a pretty specific purpose to improve where he's going to go in the draft. Just how close has he been in the last few weeks to solidifying that, to reaching that goal?
I think he's done nothing but help himself. Absolutely. I think when you look at his body of work, again, his consistency, there's been very few times that he's even been out of position this fall. He's definitely helped himself. He hadn't done anything to hurt himself. And when you look at our plan in 17, got hurt from South Carolina, but he was going to be on the same side as 17. Like, we have the most confidence in the world of him just matching up against best receivers.
Like, you talked a little bit about having returning players, the chemistry they have, but schematically, what does having players in their second year with your system, what does that allow you to do?
The biggest thing is it allows them to understand. It's impossible to show a guy every single offensive play versus every single defensive call you have. But now they understand concepts. It allows them to, for example, if they're on a blitz and a tackle blocks down, where sometimes last year they would freeze, well, now they got the right of way to go chase it back. So it just allows them to make more plays. They're seeing the same plays versus the same calls over and over, and just allows them to play with more freedom, I would say.
Coach, a few weeks ago, Al Davis mentioned needing to improve gap integrity along the defensive line. How have you seen that improve the last few weeks, and how does that help you as a play caller to accomplish what you want to accomplish?
Yeah, I think it comes down to trust, and not that they didn't. Again, to me, it's not that they didn't trust each other. They were trying to probably make a play, and it comes back to we're at one gap. We call it a bully defense. Everybody controls their gap, and the offense decides who makes the tackle. Don't try to get greedy. Don't try to do someone else's job. So, especially in the Kentucky game early on, that to me is what showed up in the first two drives, and then. Once we had a little pep talk with them on the sideline and settled them down, now they're seeing the tangible results of just doing their job. Again, I think some guys, and again, it falls back on me, but some guys were pressing too much, wanting to have production or be the guy that made the play instead of everybody do your job. Offense will decide who makes the play. So we're kind of headed in the right direction from that standpoint.
You guys face off against a former player, against Georgia. How do you think that matchup is going to play out, and is there anything that you think you maybe have an edge on him since you've seen him so much?
I mean, I think our kids, know who he is. There's no guesswork on how fast is he. They know they went against him every day for a year. So, and he knows who our DBs are. So I would say it's a wash from that. But to me, it's just he's another good receiver we've got to face in this league. Which that's going to be the case every single week. Every team's going to have good receivers.
Not sure where you're at in prep for Georgia, but also probably won't talk to you before that game. I mean, what's the challenge? I know they're number 3 in the country. What's the challenge that they present to you?
Honestly, we have not spent as a defensive staff a ton of time on them. So I really can't answer that as far as like even how they're different from last year. Obviously, with 19 out, how will they look different this Saturday? So still too early in the process. This week's really been about fixing us and maintaining an edge and gap integrity and doing the little things right. So it's hard for me to talk about them.
Is that message of stay consistent, do your job particularly important when you're getting ready to face number 1 and not making too much out of the number 9?
Yeah, I honestly think when you look back at whether it be South Carolina, Kentucky, that's what we got to hang our hat on is just be consistent, do the little things right. It is about us. It has nothing to do with Georgia or Tennessee or Florida or Arkansas, whoever we have left on the schedule. If we're consistent and we do our job, I think we can be a really, really good football team. So it doesn't matter what the ranking, what the number says in front of their name. It really is about us, in my opinion.
Coach, what do you feel like has opened just getting more first and second down, early down stops in terms of maybe being able to bring in the prowler package, some more pressure?
Yeah, I think we've kind of honed in on what we want to be on in our prowler package. Again, early on was probably trying to do too much, trying to have the perfect call or dictate the perfect protection. But I think also it comes down to how we emphasize pressure. And even in the Kentucky game, I don't think we did a good job. When we send guys on blitzes, I did not think we did a good job, blitzing like our hair was on fire. So that was a huge point of emphasis going into last week versus South Carolina. And you could see it. And then again, keeping bodies fresh. Sometimes when you blitz a lot and you're playing 70 snaps, it is hard to blitz with your hair on fire every week. So I think it's a combination of playing more guys and then emphasizing the way we want to blitz when you get sent.
Where do you like Marcus Clark and Trey Johnson so far?
Marcus, I was obviously with him at Miami. The thing that's been really cool to see is how much better he's got. Coach Bogue's done a great job with him from last year to this year. His confidence growing, his physicality, and then he's making plays on the ball. I think he has, I think it's 2 interceptions on the year, but when the ball comes his way, he's gotten better every single week. Trey Johnson is a young man who's extremely smart. Was playing him really at like all 3 different safety positions for us early on and kind of settled in on just 1 or 2 for him, but brings a lot of consistency, a lot of experience in this league. But they've both been a joy to work with, both really good kids, both smart young men.
Your unit has done a better job of forcing the interceptions recently, but throughout the season you guys have forced 8 fumbles and only recovered 1 of them. How can you change that to be able to jump on some of those balls?
Yeah, it's something we work hard on every single week. It reminds me a little bit my first year ever coaching in college with Will Muschamp. I think we led the country in forced fumbles, and we're one of the worst one of the worst in recovered fumbles. Sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles, the way the ball rolls. I know last week with the ball that flew straight up in the air, we got to get on loose change, and that's something that we emphasize. We obviously have to do a better job emphasizing that. But, yeah, it's been unfortunate, because we emphasize the heck out of getting the ball out, and I do think we've done a good job of getting the ball out, but now we got to find a way to get on them.
Coach, going back to the bye week a little bit, from your perspective, do you think the bye week came at just the right time for you guys to get guys healthy before Georgia and also just focus on the little things like you were talking about?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you were to ask me 2 weeks ago, I'd like to have it then. You always want it around mid-season, but I do think it's come at a really good time. I think, what we've learned about ourselves in the last 2 weeks on defense specifically and being able to carry that into the bye week, because bye weeks usually come down to getting yourself rested and rejuvenated, but also focusing on the details. And I think our guys have really bought into that based off of what we've been able to do on the defensive side of the ball the last 2 weeks. So sometimes bye weeks can be a little hard to get your guys going, and it hasn't been hard at all. With the upcoming stretch of games that we have and the success we've had, obviously, with our record right now. So it's been a good week so far.
I know a lot of times in an off week you get a chance to maybe look at some younger guys that don't get as many reps. And have there been any of those guys that maybe they aren't out there yet, but you can see coming that you're excited about the future that jumped out to you?
Yeah, we do every Monday night. We do like a Monday night football, but yeah, there's definitely some guys that when you look on the outside at Nick DeLoach and Shamar McNeil, I think both those guys really have stood out in a positive way. Serene Tunkara, he has great twitch. I think he's going to be a great pass rusher for us one day. And Brayshawn Littlejohn, he's played a little bit for us this season, but he's really standing out in those Monday night footballs.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate y'all.